The morning sun of Prime rose slowly over the academy grounds. Its light was purple and soft, nothing like the yellow sun Danny remembered from Earth. He had been living on this alien world for 3 months now, and he still was not used to the way everything looked slightly wrong. The sky was too green. The trees had too many branches. The birds had 4 wings instead of 2. But Danny liked it here. He really did. The Academy for Interstellar Youth was a famous school. Young beings from 12 different star systems came here to learn together. They studied science, history, and culture. They made friends with creatures they never would have met on their home worlds. It was supposed to build peace between the stars. Danny was one of only 5 humans at the Academy. Humans were still new to the galactic community. First contact had happened only 19 years ago, when Danny was just a baby. Now, at 17 years old, he was part of the first generation of humans to grow up knowing that they were not alone in the universe. His classmates were strange and wonderful. There was a who looked like a small bear covered in silver fur. She had 6 eyes that blinked one at a time, and she was always smiling. There was a crystalline being from the ice moons of. His body was made of living mineral, and he moved slowly but thought very fast. There was a young with 4 arms and skin that changed color with his mood. They were all good friends now, but Danny remembered how they had looked at him when he first arrived. They had been curious. They had been confused. Some of them had even been a little scared. Humans had a strange reputation in the galaxy. The other species could not quite figure them out. Humans had no claws, they had no fangs, they had no armor or poison or special powers. Their bodies were soft and easy to hurt. They could not see in the dark. They could not hear very well. They could not smell danger coming. And yet humans had conquered their planet. They had survived ice ages and disasters. They had built cities and ships and weapons. They had reached the stars. How, the aliens wondered, how did such weak creatures become so strong? Danny knew the answer, but he had never found the right time to explain it. That morning, everything changed. Instructor stood at the front of the classroom. He was which meant he looked like a giant insect standing on 2 legs. He had large black eyes and antennae that moved when he talked. His voice made clicking sounds between the words. Students said, I have an exciting announcement. Next week, we will celebrate Bonded Companions Day. The class erupted in happy sounds, bounced in her seat. His crystal body glowed brighter. Even the usually calm let out a chirp of excitement. Danny had no idea what was happening. He leaned over to and whispered, What is Bonded Companions Day? 6 eyes went wide. You do not know? Oh, Danny, it is wonderful. Every student brings their home world's traditional companion creature to class. We show them to each other. We learn about how different species form bonds with lesser animals. Companion creature, Danny asked. You mean like a pet? Pet tilted her fuzzy head. I do not know this word. An animal that lives with you, that you take care of, that you love. Yes, exactly like that, clapped her small paws together. I will bring my singing pufflet. Her name is. She is very small and very soft, and she makes the most beautiful sounds. You will love her. Danny nodded slowly. His mind was already racing. After class, the students gathered in the common area to talk about their plans. Everyone was excited. Everyone had stories to share about their companion creatures. My gel sprite has been with my family for 6 generations, said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. It glows in different colors depending on its mood. When I was young and scared of the dark, it would glow soft blue to help me sleep. My shaperworm can fold itself into any shape, added. When I was small, it would make itself into toys for me to play with. It is not smart, but it knows when I am sad and tries to cheer me up. Sighed happily, sings to me every morning. Her song makes me feel calm and happy. I cannot imagine life without her. They all turned to look at Danny. What about humans? Asked. What kind of companion creatures do you have on Earth? Danny thought for a long moment. He thought about the creature waiting for him back in his quarters. He thought about how to explain something that went back tens of thousands of years. "We have many kinds," Danny said carefully, "but the oldest and most important one is called a dog." "Dog," repeated, trying out the strange human word. "What is a dog like?" "Well," Danny said, "they are covered in fur. They have 4 legs. They are very loyal. They have been with humans for a very, very long time." "How long?" asked. "About 40,000 years." The aliens exchanged surprised looks. 40,000 years was a long time, even by galactic standards. "They must be very gentle creatures," said, "to have stayed with your people for so long." Danny smiled. It was not a mean smile, but there was something in it that the aliens could not quite read. "They are gentle," he said, "with us." "What does that mean?" asked. But Danny just shook his head. "You will see next week." That night Danny returned to his quarters. The room was small but comfortable, with a sleeping area, a desk, and a large open space in the middle. The academy had given him extra room when they learned about his companion. They had not understood why he needed it, but they had agreed. In the middle of that open space, a large creature lifted its head. Its fur was thick and gray and white. Its body was heavy with muscle. Its eyes were pale blue, like ice, and they watched Danny with an intelligence that went beyond simple animal thought. "Hey, Max," Danny said softly, "did you miss me?" The creature's tail began to wag. It was a slow, deliberate movement, not like the frantic wagging of a small pet. This was the measured response of an apex predator who had chosen to love instead of hunt. Danny knelt down and wrapped his arms around Max's thick neck. The wolf dog pressed his big head against Danny's chest and let out a low, rumbling sound of contentment. "The other kids are going to meet you next week," Danny whispered. "I hope they are ready." Max just wagged his tail again and licked Danny's face. Danny laughed and held his companion close. Whatever happened next week, they would face it together. That was what humans and their dogs had always done. That was what they would always do. Outside the window, the purple sun of Prime began to set, painting the green sky in shades of orange and red. Somewhere in the distance, alien birds sang their 4-winged songs. And in a small room in a school between the stars, a human boy and his wolf sat together in comfortable silence, just as their ancestors had done for 40,000 years. The day of the presentation arrived with great excitement. Students from all 12 star systems gathered in the Academy's grand observation chamber. It was a beautiful room with walls made of clear material that let everyone see the nebula gardens outside. Purple and blue clouds of cosmic gas drifted slowly past, making the whole room glow with soft light. Tables had been set up around the chamber. Each student would present their companion creature to the class. Instructor moved between the tables, his antennae twitching with happiness. He loved this day. It was his favorite event of the year. "Remember," announced, "the purpose of today is understanding. We learn about each other by learning about the creatures we love. There is no competition here. Every bond is special in its own way." The presentations began. Went first. She opened a small container and lifted out her singing pufflet. The creature was tiny, no bigger than's closed fist. It looked like a ball of pink fluff with 2 small black eyes. When stroked its head, opened her small mouth and began to sing. The sound was beautiful. It was a 3-note melody that seemed to wrap around everyone in the room like a warm blanket. Danny felt his shoulders relax. He felt calm and peaceful. Several students closed their eyes and swayed gently to the music. "Singing pufflets have been companions to the people for 8,000 years, explained. "They help us relax, they help us sleep, they help us feel safe." Everyone applauded, chirped happily and snuggled against silver fur. Went next. He placed his hand on the table and opened his crystalline fingers. Sitting in his palm was a small blob of glowing gel. It was his gel sprite, and it pulsed with soft blue and green light. Gel sprites are not very smart, admitted, but they can sense our emotions. When we are sad, they glow warm colors to comfort us. When we are happy, they dance and sparkle. As if to demonstrate, the gel sprite began to shift and swirl. Its light changed to bright yellow and pink. The students made sounds of delight. Showed his shaperworm, a creature that could fold its body into any shape. He asked it to make a star, and it did. He asked it to make a flower, and it did that too. The students laughed and clapped. One by one, other students presented their companions. There was a creature that could change colors to match its owner's mood. There was a floating orb that hummed calming frequencies. There was a tiny lizard that gave off gentle heat, perfect for cold nights. Every single creature was small. Every single creature was soft. Every single creature was harmless. Then it was Danny's turn. He had not brought Max to the chamber yet. The wolf dog was waiting in a side room, connected by a door that Danny had asked to keep closed. Instructor had agreed without asking why. Now Danny stood up and walked to that door. Everyone watched with curious eyes. The human had been so quiet about his companion. They were all eager to see what kind of cute little creature the humans bonded with. Danny placed his hand on the door panel. He took a deep breath. "Before I show you my companion," he said, "I want to say something. Please try not to be scared. He will not hurt you. He is very well trained and very gentle, but he might look different from what you expect." The students exchanged confused looks. Scared? Why would they be scared of a companion creature? Companion creatures were small and soft and harmless. That was the whole point. Danny opened the door. For a moment nothing happened. The doorway was dark. Then something moved in that darkness, something large. Max walked into the observation chamber. The room went completely silent. No one moved, no one breathed. The creature that stood beside Danny was nothing like what they had expected. It was massive, nearly as tall as Danny's hip. Its body was covered in thick gray and white fur that could not hide the powerful muscles beneath. Its legs were long and built for running. Its chest was deep and wide, made for endurance. But it was the head that made everyone's blood run cold. The skull was large and wedge-shaped. The ears stood straight up, alert and listening. The muzzle was long and filled with teeth that were clearly made for tearing flesh. And the eyes were the worst part. They were pale blue, almost white, and they held an intelligence that went far beyond a simple pet. Those eyes scanned the room slowly, carefully. They assessed every being present. They noted every possible threat. Those were the eyes of a predator, an apex predator, a killer. Max stood perfectly still beside Danny, his body relaxed but ready. His tail hung low, not wagging, not tucked, just waiting. Let out a small scream and dove behind a table. Her pufflet began to make distressed sounds. His crystal body flashed with alarm colors, turned bright purple with fear, and his four arms pulled his shaperworm close to his chest. Other students ran for the walls. Some tried to hide behind furniture. A few made sounds of terror in their native languages. Instructor's antennae were flat against his head. His large black eyes were fixed on Max with pure, primal fear. Every instinct in his body was screaming at him to run. What is that?" managed to say. His voice was barely a whisper. Danny looked down at Max with obvious love. He scratched behind the wolf dog's ears, and Max's tail began to wag slowly. "This is Max," Danny said calmly. "He is a wolf-dog hybrid, part gray wolf, part Alaskan Malamute." "Wolf?" His voice came from behind the table. "The wolf, the apex predator from Earth, the pack hunter that can run for hours and bring down creatures 10 times its size." "Yeah," Danny said, "that is the one." "You brought a predator to Companion's Day?" asked. His skin was still bright purple. "You brought a killer." Danny shook his head. "I brought my best friend." The room was still frozen with fear. Max looked around at all the terrified aliens. He did not growl. He did not show his teeth. He just stood there, patient and calm, waiting for Danny to tell him what to do. "He is trained," Danny said. "He has been with my family since he was a puppy. He sleeps in my bed. He eats from my hand. He has never hurt anyone in his life." "But he could," said. "Look at him, he could kill any of us." "Yes," Danny agreed. "He could, but he will not because I asked him not to." Danny knelt down beside Max and put his arm around the wolf dog's thick neck. Max turned his big head and licked Danny's face. His tail wagged faster. "This is what bonding means to humans," Danny said. "This is our oldest companion, our first friend, our partner for 40,000 years." The aliens stared. They did not understand. How could anyone bond with something so dangerous? How could anyone trust a creature that could kill them? Danny smiled at their confused faces. He had expected this reaction, and he knew that explaining it would take more than just words. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "Let me tell you how humans and wolves became family." Max settled down on the floor beside Danny, resting his big head on his paws. His pale blue eyes were calm now, almost gentle. And in the observation chamber, surrounded by terrified aliens and floating cosmic clouds, Danny began to speak about the oldest friendship in human history. The observation chamber was very quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the Academy's life support systems. Every alien in the room was pressed against the walls, as far from Max as they could get. Their eyes were fixed on the massive predator lying calmly at Danny's feet. Security had been called. 2 large guards stood by the door, their weapons ready. They had not pointed those weapons at Max yet, but Danny could tell they wanted to. Every instinct in their bodies was telling them that the wolf dog was a threat. Ambassador arrived a few minutes later. She was the Academy's liaison for human affairs, a tall being with 4 arms and smooth gray skin. She had studied humans for years and thought she understood them, but the sight of Max made her stop in the doorway. "Is that," she said slowly, "what I think it is?" "Yes, Ambassador," Instructor said. His voice was shaking. "The human has brought a wolf to Companions' Day." Ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked into the room, her 4 arms folded across her chest. She did not go close to Max, but she did not run away either. She was trying very hard to stay calm. "Danny," she said formally, "you have caused quite a disturbance." "I know," Danny said. "I am sorry. I did not mean to scare everyone." "You brought an apex predator into a room full of children." "I brought my companion, my family. That is what you asked us to do." Ambassador looked at Max. The wolf dog looked back at her with those pale, intelligent eyes. He did not move. He did not growl. He just watched. "Let the human explain," said finally. "There may be context we are missing." Danny stood up slowly. Max stayed on the floor, relaxed and patient. The wolf dog's eyes followed Danny's movements, always aware of where his human was. "On Earth," Danny began, "our ancestors were weak. They had no claws, they had no fangs, they had no armor or poison. Their skin was soft. Their senses were dull. They could not run very fast. They could not climb very well. By all logic, they should have been prey." The aliens listened. Some of them had moved slightly closer, curiosity beginning to overcome their fear. But humans had 2 things that made them special. They had big brains that could solve problems, and they had the ability to form bonds, deep bonds, unbreakable bonds. Danny looked down at Max. The wolf dog's tail thumped against the floor once. 40,000 years ago, our ancestors met wolves. Wolves were everything humans were not. They were fast. They were strong. They could hear a whisper from far away. They could smell prey from great distances. They had teeth that could crush bone and claws that could tear flesh. They hunted in packs and could bring down animals much larger than themselves. Danny paused. He wanted the aliens to understand what he was saying. "Wolves should have been our enemies. They should have hunted us. And in the beginning they probably did. But something strange happened, something that changed the history of both species forever. "What happened?" asked. She had come out from behind her table. Her 6 eyes were wide with curiosity. "We became friends." The room was silent. The aliens did not understand. "Friends?" asked. "With predators." "With partners," Danny corrected. "No one knows exactly how it started. Maybe a wolf pack and a human tribe began following the same herds. Maybe they learned to hunt together, sharing the kill. Maybe a human found orphaned wolf pups and raised them. Maybe a wolf decided that humans were worth protecting." Danny walked slowly around the room as he talked. Max's eyes followed him, but the wolf dog stayed where he was. Whatever happened, it worked. Humans gave wolves food, warmth, and shelter. Wolves gave humans their senses, their strength, and their loyalty. Together, they became something new, something stronger than either could be alone. "But how did you trust them?" asked. "How did you sleep next to creatures that could kill you?" Danny smiled. "Because they chose not to. Every single day for 40,000 years they chose us. They protected our children. They guarded our camps at night. They warned us when danger was coming. They fought beside us against enemies. They gave us everything they had." He knelt down beside Max and put his hand on the wolf dog's head. Max leaned into the touch, his eyes closing with pleasure. Over time, wolves became dogs. They changed. They became smaller, some of them, gentler, more eager to please. We bred them for different purposes. Some dogs herded our animals. Some dogs guarded our homes. Some dogs pulled our sleds across frozen lands. Some dogs just sat beside us and kept us company when we were lonely. Danny's voice became softer. But no matter how much they changed, one thing stayed the same: their loyalty, their love. Dogs do not care if you are rich or poor. They do not care if you are smart or stupid. They do not care if you are strong or weak. They just love you completely, forever. Had tears in 4 of her 6 eyes. "That is beautiful," she whispered. "It is also terrifying," Ambassador said. "You took the most dangerous predators on your planet and made them love you." "Yes," Danny agreed, "we did. And they have never turned on you, in 40,000 years." Danny thought about this question carefully. Individual dogs have hurt individual humans, yes. That happens when any creature is afraid or hurt or badly trained. But as a species, no, dogs have never betrayed us. They have died for us. They have starved for us. They have walked into fire for us. They have given us everything, and they have asked for almost nothing in return. Max stood up slowly and walked over to Danny. The wolf dog pressed his big body against Danny's legs and looked up at him with those pale blue eyes. "Max's grandfather saved my father's life," Danny said quietly. "There was a fire in our house when my dad was young. The dog woke him up and led him to safety. The dog died from the smoke a few minutes later. He could have escaped alone, but he went back to make sure my dad was safe." The room was completely silent. "When my grandmother was old and sick, her dog lay beside her bed every day. He would not leave her. When she died, he stopped eating. He died a few weeks later. The vet said there was nothing physically wrong with him. He just did not want to live without her." Danny wiped his eyes. He had not meant to get emotional. "This is what dogs are to humans. They are not pets. They are not servants. They are family. They are partners. They are the first and oldest friends we ever made." He looked around at the aliens, at their wide eyes and confused faces. "You asked me to bring my bonded companion, so I brought Max. He is not small. He is not soft. He is not harmless. But he is mine and I am his, and we have been together since I was 10 years old. He would die for me without a second thought, and I would do the same for him." Max wagged his tail and licked Danny's hand. Ambassador stared at the human and his wolf dog for a long time. Then she turned to the security guards. "Stand down," she said. "The animal is not a threat." The guards hesitated. "Ambassador, are you sure?" "I am sure," looked at Danny with new respect. I think we have a lot to learn about humans and about what it really means to form a bond. Danny smiled and scratched Max behind the ears. The wolf dog's tail wagged faster. It was a start. The next few hours passed slowly. Danny's presentation had ended, but no one wanted to leave the observation chamber. The alien students stayed close to the walls, watching Max with a mixture of fear and fascination. They wanted to understand. They wanted to believe what Danny had told them. But 40,000 years of predator instincts were hard to overcome. Max seemed to understand that he was making everyone nervous. He stayed close to Danny, lying quietly at the human's feet. Sometimes his tail would wag when someone looked at him. Sometimes he would let out a soft sound like he was trying to say hello. But he did not approach anyone. He waited for them to come to him. Instructor announced a midday break. Food was brought in from the academy kitchens. Students sat in small groups, eating and talking quietly. The tension in the room had started to fade just a little. Was the bravest. She sat only a few tables away from Danny, her 6 eyes constantly moving between her food and Max. Her singing pufflet was still making nervous sounds in her pocket. Danny said softly, "Can Max really understand you? Like truly understand?" Danny nodded. Dogs are very smart. They cannot speak our language, but they learn to understand many words. Max knows about 200 commands. He also knows how to read my body language. He can tell when I am happy or sad or scared just by looking at me. That is amazing, said. She paused. Does he know that we are afraid of him? Yes, he knows. That is why he is being so calm and still. He is trying not to scare you more. His eyes went wide. He is doing that on purpose to make us feel better. Dogs care about how the people around them feel. When we are stressed, they get stressed too. Max wants everyone to relax. He wants to be friends. Before could respond, an alarm shrieked through the academy. The sound was loud and terrible. Red lights began flashing on the walls. Everyone in the observation chamber jumped to their feet. Students screamed. Companion creatures made sounds of distress. Warning, a mechanical voice announced. Containment failure in xenobiology wing. Tunnel serpents have breached containment. All students and staff must shelter in place. Danny felt his blood go cold. He had heard about tunnel serpents in his xenobiology class. They were small, about the length of his forearm. They were fast, very fast, and they were venomous. One bite could paralyze an adult human in seconds. The serpents were used for research at the academy. They were supposed to be kept in secure containers behind multiple safety doors. Something had gone very wrong. Everyone stay calm, instructor shouted. His antennae were vibrating with fear. The emergency teams will handle this. We just need to stay here and wait. But even as he spoke, a vent cover in the ceiling burst open. A tunnel serpent dropped into the room, then another, then 5 more. The creatures were horrible. They had no eyes, just heat-sensing pits on their triangular heads. Their bodies were covered in dark scales that seemed to drink in the light. They moved like water, flowing across the floor with terrible speed. Students screamed and ran. The observation chamber became chaos. Aliens pushed and shoved, trying to get away from the serpents. Some climbed on tables. Some pressed against the walls. Some fell and could not get back up. A serpent lunged at. She screamed and threw up her arms to protect her face. Max moved. Danny had never seen his dog move so fast. One moment, Max was lying at his feet. The next moment, the wolf dog was across the room, his jaws closing on the serpent just inches from his face. There was a crunch of breaking bones. The serpent went limp. Max dropped the dead creature and spun around. Another serpent was racing toward, who could not move fast enough to escape. Max was there in a flash, his teeth finding their target with perfect precision. Max, Danny shouted, guard, protect. The wolf dog understood. Those were commands he had learned years ago, commands Danny had hoped he would never need to use. Max had been trained for search and rescue back on Earth. He knew how to protect people. Max began to work. The wolf dog moved through the chaos with deadly efficiency. He was everywhere at once. A serpent dropped from the ceiling, and Max caught it before it could land. 3 serpents tried to rush toward a group of cowering students, and Max cut them off, his body a wall of muscle and fur between predator and prey. But Max was not just killing. He was thinking. He was planning. Danny watched in awe as his dog herded the frightened students into a tight group near the center of the room. Max circled them, keeping them together, keeping them safe. He was doing exactly what his wolf ancestors had done for thousands of years. He was protecting his pack. Danny ran to help. He grabbed a chair and swung it at a serpent that was trying to get past Max. The creature hissed and retreated. "Everyone stay close together," Danny shouted. "Stay behind Max." The aliens obeyed. They were too scared to do anything else. They huddled in a tight cluster while the wolf dog circled them again and again, snapping at any serpent that came too close. More serpents poured from the vents. 10, 20. The emergency teams were still not here. The creatures were multiplying faster than Max could kill them. Was crying, was screaming in her pocket. His crystal body was flashing red with fear. Instructor was trying to call for help on his communicator, but his hands were shaking too badly to work the controls. Danny felt despair creeping into his heart. There were too many serpents. Max was fast and strong, but he was only one dog. They were going to be overwhelmed. Then Max did something that Danny did not expect. The wolf dog stopped circling. He planted his feet and raised his head, and he howled. It was not a loud howl. It was low and deep, a sound that seemed to vibrate in Danny's chest. It was the howl of a wolf calling to his pack. It was the sound of 40,000 years of partnership, of trust, of love. The serpents stopped. They just stopped, all of them. They turned their eyeless heads toward Max, sensing the vibrations of that ancient sound. For a moment, nothing moved. Max howled again, longer this time, louder. The serpents began to retreat. They slithered backward, away from the wolf dog, away from the sound that spoke of something older and more powerful than their simple predator minds could understand. They were afraid. The serpents were afraid of the wolf. Danny felt tears running down his face. He did not know why he was crying. Pride, maybe. Love. The simple, overwhelming feeling of watching his best friend save everyone he cared about. The emergency teams finally arrived. They swept through the observation chamber with containment equipment, capturing the remaining serpents. Medics checked everyone for bites. Miraculously, no one had been hurt. When it was over, Danny knelt down beside Max. The wolf dog was panting hard. His fur was wet with sweat. His pale blue eyes were tired but happy. "Good boy," Danny whispered. His voice was shaking. "You are such a good boy, the best boy. I love you so much." Max's tail wagged. He licked Danny's face, just like he did every morning when Danny woke up, just like he had done 1,000 times before. Around them, the alien students stared in shock and wonder. They had just watched a predator become a protector. They had just seen what 40,000 years of partnership really meant. And they were beginning to understand. The days following the serpent attack were strange and wonderful. News of what had happened spread quickly through the academy. Within hours, everyone knew about the human and his wolf dog. Within days, everyone knew about what Max had done in the observation chamber. Representatives from across the Galactic Federation began arriving at Academy. They wanted to see the creature that had saved so many young lives. They wanted to understand the bond between humans and their dogs. A special assembly was called. It was held in the Academy's Great Hall, a massive room that could hold thousands of beings. Every seat was filled. More aliens stood along the walls and in the aisles. This was the biggest event in the Academy's recent history. Danny stood on the stage at the front of the hall. Max sat beside him, calm and patient as always. The wolf dog's pale blue eyes moved slowly over the crowd, watching but not worried. He seemed to understand that this was important. Ambassador spoke first. She stood at a podium, her 4 arms folded in front of her. "We have studied humans for 20 years," she said. Her voice echoed through the great hall. "We have noted their lack of natural weapons. We have observed their physical weaknesses. We have wondered how such a fragile species could have risen to dominate their planet and reach the stars." She paused and looked at Danny and Max. "Now we begin to understand." Stepped back from the podium and gestured for Danny to speak. Danny walked forward slowly. He was not used to public speaking. He was not used to being the center of attention. But this was important. This was his chance to help the galaxy understand. "On Earth," Danny began, his voice a little shaky at first, "there is a saying, 'Dogs are man's best friend.' It sounds simple. It sounds like something you would put on a greeting card. But it is true in ways that are hard to explain." He looked out at the sea of alien faces. So many different species, so many different worlds, all of them watching him, waiting to hear what he would say. "When my ancestors were cold and afraid in the dark, dogs lay beside them and shared their warmth. When my ancestors were hungry and weak, dogs helped them hunt and bring down prey. When my ancestors were attacked by enemies, dogs fought beside them and died for them." Danny's voice grew stronger as he spoke. "Dogs have been with us through everything. They were with us when we were cave people with stone tools. They were with us when we built our first cities. They were with us when we sailed across oceans and climbed mountains. They were with us when we left our planet and reached for the stars." He reached down and put his hand on Max's head. The wolf dog looked up at him with pure love in his eyes. "We did not tame dogs. We did not conquer them. We made a partnership. We said to the wolves, 'Come with us and we will face the universe together.' And they said yes. For 40,000 years they have been saying yes." A murmur ran through the crowd. The aliens were beginning to understand, but there was still confusion in their eyes. "How do you trust them?" Someone called out from the audience. "How do you sleep next to something that could kill you?" Danny smiled. "How do you trust anyone? You take a chance. You open your heart. You let yourself be vulnerable. And if you are lucky, if you are very lucky, you find someone who will never let you down." He looked down at Max again. "Dogs are not perfect. They make mistakes. They get scared and confused just like we do, but they never stop trying. They never stop loving. Even when we fail them, even when we hurt them, they forgive us. They come back to us. They believe in us even when we do not deserve it." Danny had to stop for a moment. His throat was tight with emotion. "That is what dogs have taught humans. That is the gift they have given us. They have shown us what unconditional love looks like. They have shown us what loyalty really means. They have made us better." The great hall was silent. No one moved, no one spoke. Then something unexpected happened. Stood up from her seat in the front row. Her 6 eyes were bright with tears. Her hands were shaking, but she walked toward the stage anyway. She walked toward Max. Danny held up his hand to stop her. "You do not have to do this." "Yes," she said firmly, "I do." She climbed the steps to the stage and stood in front of the wolf dog. Max watched her with calm, patient eyes. His tail began to wag slowly. "He saved my life," said. Her voice was trembling. "That serpent would have killed me, and he stopped it. He did not even know me, but he protected me." She reached out with one shaking hand. Max looked up at Danny. Danny gave him a small nod. The wolf dog leaned forward and pressed his head against palm. Let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "He is warm," she said. "He is so warm." "He likes you," Danny said softly. "He knows you are a friend." Other students began to stand up. The other beings who had been in the observation chamber when the serpents attacked. One by one, they walked toward the stage. Max greeted each of them in turn. He let them touch his fur. He let them look into his eyes. He wagged his tail and made soft, friendly sounds. He was patient and gentle with every single one. "Look at him," Ambassador said in wonder. "He is accepting them, all of them." "He is making them part of his pack," Danny explained. "That is what dogs do. Once you are pack, you are family. He will protect them now just like he protects me." Instructor had joined the group on the stage. His antennae were no longer flat with fear. Instead, they stood tall with curiosity and something that looked like respect. "Your species took apex predators," said slowly, "and turned them into this. Into protectors, into family members, into beings capable of love." "We are really good at making friends," Danny said with a grin. The assembly lasted for several more hours. Danny answered questions. Max demonstrated his training. The alien students who had overcome their fear shared their experiences. By the end, something had shifted in the Great Hall. The fear was gone. In its place was wonder and respect. As the crowds finally began to leave, Danny sat down on the edge of the stage. Max lay beside him, his big head resting on Danny's leg. They were both tired, but it was a good kind of tired. Came back to sit with them. Her singing pufflet was perched on her shoulder again. The tiny creature looked at Max with wide eyes, but she no longer seemed afraid. Danny said, "Thank you for bringing Max, for showing us what humans are really like." "What do you think we are really like?" Danny asked. Thought about it for a moment. "I think you are the kind of species that looks at a wolf and sees a friend. I think you are the kind of species that believes anything can be family if you love it enough." Danny smiled. "That is probably the nicest thing anyone has ever said about humans." Max's tail thumped against the stage, chirped softly. Outside the great hall's windows, the purple sun of Prime was setting, painting the green sky in shades of orange and gold. "You know," said thoughtfully, "has never met a dog before. Do you think she could meet Max properly?" Danny looked at Max. The wolf dog's ears perked up with interest. His pale eyes focused on the tiny pufflet with gentle curiosity. "Let us try," Danny said. Carefully lifted from her shoulder and held her out toward Max. The wolf dog sniffed the tiny creature very gently. His tail wagged, chirped, and then, to everyone's surprise, she began to sing. It was the same three-note melody she had performed at the beginning of Companion's Day. But this time, she was singing it for Max. The wolf dog closed his eyes and let out a long, contented sigh. "I think they are friends," said with a laugh. Danny put his arm around Max's thick neck and smiled. Friends. That was what it always came down to in the end. Humans had crossed the stars and found a galaxy full of strange and wonderful beings, and somehow, despite all their differences, they were finding ways to connect. Maybe that was humanity's greatest gift, not their technology, not their determination, not their stubborn refusal to give up. Just their ability to make friends. Even with wolves, even with aliens, even with tiny singing pufflets. In the great hall of Academy, as the stars began to appear in the alien sky, a human boy and his wolf dog sat together with their new friends. Somewhere in the distance, other students were talking about what they had learned today. They were spreading stories about the human and his incredible companion. And in a galaxy that had never quite understood humanity, something was beginning to change, one friendship at a time. Max wagged his tail and licked Danny's face. Some things, it turned out, were universal.